Okay, good afternoon and good evening. Okay, because we are having a
Hello.
different.
Hello everyone present here virtually. I am Rutuja here and I welcome you all for today's session which is titled as What is Research Gap? And presenting this session we have with us Dr. Mugneshwari A.P. Sahadevan. Yes, I have Mugneshwari A.P. Sahadevan is assistant principal at Inasis Bank Rakyat UUM, which leads students' activities and programs. She received the Best Presenter Award, International Conference on Kaizen Management, Social Science and Technology 2019. You can start now, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, Haksi. Okay, I'm so sorry. For the overlapped voices just now. Okay, good evening and good afternoon for everyone who are watching from Facebook, from YouTube. Okay, doesn't matter where you're watching from. Okay, good evening, good afternoon, maybe good morning because of the different zones. Okay, so today this is going to be like a 1 hour sharing session. Okay, I'm going to share about the knowledge. Okay, maybe I'm going to share what I've know about this resource gap, because I think resource gap is one of the most important elements in among the most important elements in the thesis. Okay, because I know that based on my experiences, based on my friends' experiences, the moment we start, doesn't matter we are doing a UG or master or PhD, or maybe when we are writing our paper, when we're going to publish our paper, the first thing which will be questioned is about the risk gap. Okay, what is the novelty of your studies? What is the contribution of your studies? Okay, there's a famous term will be asked in Viva. Okay, will be asked by the supervisor, will be asked by the examiners. Okay, so I think this is the gap. It's like a prevalent term which been used. Used throughout that. If you are doing PhD, until end of our Viva, will be questioned about the what is the contribution of your study, what do you going to be contribute to the knowledge. Okay, what is going to be new knowledge that you're going to be going to be added into the existing knowledge. Okay, all of these are considered as the research gap. Okay, so I remember when I about to start my PhD in 2015. uh, it's quite famous that time. People are questioning about what is the research gap. And I was like, oh, what is the research gap? I don't know. Maybe we are much familiar with the problem statement, but people start to talk about this research gap. Actually, it's been there for the longer time. But we start to be exposed as a research gap like within like I think this within few years. So so and sometimes because of the research gap, it seems like a superficial, but we might be stuck if we're not able to find out the research gap, because we don't know what to do next. Okay, what to do next, even though the first mistake that we will do when we're doing our thesis is to choosing the title first before we know what we want to know. Okay, that's the issues why we even during the early stage of our research, we're not able to move to another step because of we don't know what we need to know. What is the research gap? Okay, so they're like I can share there have been like some cases from my circles. Okay, they're not able to move because they don't know what to do. Okay, what should I do, Mugi? Okay, I know that. Okay, I know this is the title, but what should I include it into my thesis in order to say that what is the contribution, what is contribution? Okay, so what today we are going to look into for today's sharing session. Okay, there are like 7 types of gaps that you can address in your thesis. Okay, it depends on your what we call it depend in your what you really want to know. Okay, so before we go further, okay, so before we go further, what is that type of gaps that we can included in the thesis? We have to understand what are the gaps. Okay, so basically research gap is about like, we can say that it's like, it's like we have some insufficient information on that certain topic. Okay, let's say, okay, I'm giving my example, my thesis example. When I'm writing down my thesis, the first thing which comes to my mind when I'm writing down the research gap in my, in my thesis, okay, I have this one column which is I dedicate only for the research gap at chapter 1. I discuss about the research gap so that when the examiner can, when read my thesis, that the examiners, they can understand that okay, this person is going to identify these gaps, okay, in her thesis. Okay, so I write down that there's like some insufficient information on methodology, okay, on methodology where we are like most of the research in international business when looking into the strategy access seeking, people are, scholars are using scholars are using surveys, but lack of like reliable data on this reliable data on the strategy access seeking, and they are using only official statistics. So there's some argument which is like supporting that statement. Okay, it means it shows that there are like some insufficient information related to the strategy access seeking data in previous studies. Therefore, okay, I'm going to look into detail through this, Orbis. Okay, we call database Orbis, and then I'm going to get the reliable data, and I'm going to see whether is it as claimed by the previous scholars is true or not. Okay, there's a gap. It means like you're having insufficient information, and through your research you're going to add another information which is lacking off. Okay. The second things maybe like the gap is like there's like are there something like are there something that is there something that we need to be addressed. Okay, are they still like maybe because research is not only it's not like it's going to be stopped right there. Okay, research is something like an ongoing process. That's why we call research. Okay, so maybe when I'm doing when I'm doing research on strategy access seeking, I have found something. Okay, it's going to be support. Okay, I think when I'm doing my research on strategy access seeking, I think a little research that have been discussed in Malaysia, especially. Okay, discuss about strategy access seeking among the Malaysian MNEs. Okay, so when we look into the literature, okay, when we're reading the literature, when we are looking into the topic of strategy access seeking, mostly the paper will be published on China, okay, on Chinese Malaysian, Chinese multinational enterprises, mostly on the other, other Asian countries. But Malaysian is still like, we are lacking of knowledge what is going on with the strategy access seeking in Malaysia, okay, and we have a little knowledge on that. Therefore, I think it's the right choice for me to discuss or do research on these Malaysian multinational companies, okay, Malaysian international enterprises, or Malaysian, or we call like a Malaysian multinational firms, okay, that we can name in many names, okay. How do they do the strategy access seeking, and what kind of patterns they have in Malaysia particularly? Okay, this is what I think it's needed, to be known, because when we're reading the literature, we are talking about India, we are talking about China, but we don't have any literature, we don't have, we didn't should say don't have, we have like a little knowledge what is going on in Malaysia. Malaysia have a multinational companies, and they're doing a lot of overseas business projects. So what happened to that? Okay, so this is something like we know that this gap is I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay. This is what we think that we need. Okay. So while you're doing down, before you're writing down, before you choose your titles, so you have to know what are the elements that we still have to address, and it's like a need much. Okay, they're much needed in the thesis. Okay, in the research. Okay, let's say if you're doing something about the educational, okay, something thesis about the educational, okay, with the education. Okay, nowadays we know that we are moving towards the hybrid hybrid, we are talking about the hybrid education, okay, whether we are can do in a virtual or in a face-to-face education. Okay, this is a trend which has come out after the COVID-19. Okay, so maybe there have been like a lot of articles have been discussed about this hybrid education, hybrid learning, but there must be something if we left over there, which is be like most researchers have like overlooked certain things. So when you're going to do your thesis, when you're going to do your research, okay, on the hybrid education, so you have to know what are the still like what data that are still lacking off. Okay, so that's what we call research gaps. Okay, and it's interrelated with the problem statement, but for today I'm not going to touch about the problem statement. Maybe in the upcoming webinar I will share with you about the problem statement and how to integrate into the research gaps. But today we solely will be looking into the research gap. Okay, and the next one, okay, the gaps like it's not answered properly in the previous studies. Okay, that's the reason before you start your research, okay, basically like the supervisor will ask you to read at least like 30 or 40 articles, the basic like the what do you call the key papers of your research. Okay, I remember when during my PhD startup, the early stage of my PhD, my supervisor gave me around like 30 articles about this strategy asset seeking. What is the business group? Okay, what is the role of government? How do they related to the strategy asset seeking? Okay, and what are the theories which is arguing about this strategy asset seeking? Because there are like two types of argument which is going on among the scholars, where they say the Western theories can explain well about the emerging enterprises, internalization. However, from the year of 2012, from Ramamurthy, okay, from the Lu and Tang 2007, okay, they started to argue that we can't use the existing theories to explain the emerging economics, because they are doing a rapid internalization. This is a kind of like what we call like this is a something like we have to know, and based on that points, that how we are going to develop our research. So my research developed based on that. Okay, like there are some elements or some points which is not answered in the previous studies, so I'm going to look into that. Okay, so basically it's a home country effects. Okay, my research is about the home country effects. How do these home country effects created this business group, okay, or created a platform for the business group, and the business group, once it's existed, how it assists the firms to go to the overseas. Okay, so it's not answered in the when I'm doing my the review from based on the key papers which is given by my supervisors, and based on his guidance for sure. Okay, so I found out that this is some like interesting research gap should be addressed, and I able to get the data on that. I able to get the data based on that. So that's it's a green signal for you to do your research, so that I'm going to answer something is not answered in the previous studies. Okay, and the last I'm so sorry, sorry, because of the I'm still like I suffered from the fever like a few days ago, but I'm still having the sore throat. I'm so sorry for that. The last definition that we can give, like what we call like when people talking about research gap, the last definition which can come to your mind is about the novel, about novelty, about the publishable. Okay, we are doing our research because we want to find the solution. Okay, we want to find the solution for the problem which is still existing in that the particular topic. Okay, and when you go to the research proposal, when you're going for the reviews for a year, the yearly review. Okay, we are going to have the yearly review. Okay, we have to review to the examiners what we have done so far. Okay, the first thing which I think the examiners will ask, like they will ask, what is the novelty of your studies? What is the contribution of your study for the new knowledge? How can your your findings can add to the existing knowledge? Okay, what is so new about your study? Okay, that's how, like, they will get to know about, like, they will get know about your the motivation of your study. And based on that, okay, you go along with based on that motivation throughout your thesis. Okay, that's how you're going to justify when examiners ask you what is your research gap. They're not going to say straightforwardly. They are going to ask you what is the research gap. They'll may ask you, okay, ask you, this is the famous one, that what is the contribution, okay, what's the novelty, okay, how do you add new knowledge to the existing knowledge, and so on. Okay, so you have to know. So research gap is as I said earlier, it's a really an important, or an important element which should be, it's going to be like we call what we call a central, okay, we call it a central support for your thesis. Okay, so when you're answering your if you're going to answer, even in the conference itself, when someone asks you what is the so new about your research, so that is going to be your answer, like, okay, that's like some, based on the review of the literature review, previous literature review, I found out that, they're not able to answer these questions. Okay, for example, studies by Zuka 2020, studies by Amir 2021. Okay, they have a little knowledge about this particular issue. Therefore, based on this approach, so and so on, I'm going to analyze this issue through the survey, through case studies, and so on. Okay, that's the meaning of the gaps. Okay, I hope I hope for now you understand what is the gaps. Okay, mind your research gaps. Okay, so you have to know, and based on that, we are going to integrate with the problem statement. Okay, so I'm sure in the soonest day, in the soonest day, in the soonest time, I will I will arrange with Saksi for the another webinar. I will discuss about the problem statement and with problem statement and research gap. Okay, so as I said, okay, there are like a 7 or 8 gaps that we can include it into the thesis. Okay, for the further information, you can refer to the Miles 2017. You can go to the Google Scholar. You can type Miles 2017. He described well about this. Described well about this. What is gaps that you can find, like, you can find in your studies. Okay, but basically I think so far, when I'm reading, like, when I'm reading the thesis, when I'm reading the articles, and based on my experience when I'm doing my research, okay, we kind of looking into these 3 types of gaps. Okay, these 3 types of gaps: theoretical gap, methodological gap, and knowledge gap. Okay, and this is like a very prevalent, very famous gap which will be addressed by the research, okay, in their studies. Okay, the first thing is the theoretical gap. As I said, as I said earlier, when I'm start during my early stage of my PhD, when there are like some argument is ongoing in the scholar debates, the debates that 2 types of the argument which is going on. The theories can be used or not used for answering this question in this, this particular situation. So in my thesis, I address that, the theoretical, as said by Ramamurthy, as said by the Lu and Tang 2007, okay, Matthew 2006, and Matthew 2012 and 2018. Okay, they said, it's actually, they are right, okay, saying, the phenomena which is going on in emerging markets, it's actually support what have they said in their theory. Okay, theory basically is about the fundamental of things that is like, supporting the phenomena. Okay, the fundamental means like, they say this theory, for example, internalization, like Uppsala model. Okay, for those who are like doing the international business or doing management, if you're talking about the theories, you must be heard about this Uppsala model, where they're talking about the, the company will do the exporting, and exporting through the exporting, that's how they are learning the knowledge, and so on. That's what's said by the Uppsala. But when it comes to the Lu and Tang, they said springboard perspective. They said companies, they have no more patience to do this exporting and wait for them to establish, and then only they learn the knowledge. Springboard means like, they do the very aggressive merger and acquisition, and they learn their knowledge time while they're doing the merger and exclusion. So this is the new argument which is going on in the theory. So when you address that, okay, so this is the gap in your thesis that you're going to put, like, previous studies have been argued, like, existing theories supported merging market activities at international level. However, they have overlooked into the current theories, like, based on what said by the Ruckman, said by the Lu and Tang. Therefore, in thesis, I'm going to identify whether the theoretical is applicable for the phenomena which is happening in Malaysia. So it's for that's an example of the research gap that you can theoretical gap that you can address in your thesis. So for that, as I said, you have to read a lot. Means, like, I didn't say like 100 or 200, but at least you take some 30 or 20 key papers related to your studies, related to your research, and try to understand what is still lacking off over there. And based on that, you can come up, okay, I'm going to look into the theoretical gap, or I'm going to look into the knowledge gap, or whether I'm going to look into the methodological gap or some other things. Okay, there are like practical gaps as well. Okay, I didn't include it here, but you can see in the MILES 2017, practical gaps is like a more prevalent for the, for those who are working at the firms. They find out there's some issues going on in their firm, and based on that, they want to do some research, because they're doing the research because they want to find out some solution for the issues. Okay, there's one of my colleagues from Germany. That guy is from Germany. He was working in one of the firms at Germany, if I'm mistaken. And then he come up, the first time when he came up to meet us during the meeting. He already have his idea, the issues, and the solution the solution for the issue itself. Okay, and he start to write up his thesis based on that. So that's what we call the practical gap. He said, like, this issue is going on. Okay, there's issues like organizational slacks is happening in his firm. Okay, and he found out this is one of the major issues which is impacting the profit of the firm, something like that. Okay, so he want to do the research based on that, and he found the solution, and that's going to be his thesis. That the finding of thesis is going to be the guidelines or SOP for his firms. Okay, right after his study. So there's another example of the practical gap. Okay, when you're reading the MILES, you can see that gap, practical gap. Okay, so when we're talking about the methodological gap, knowledge gap, it's same things, like, maybe in the previous studies they have been doing survey. Okay, when we're talking about the quantitative, the famous method will be used by the quantitative people are survey. Okay, they will do the survey, they will create the questionnaire. Okay, they will go for the they will go for the survey. Okay, they will like distribute the survey, they will get the respondents and so on. Okay, so when it comes to your study, you said there's like maybe we call like it's overlapped. Okay, maybe it's like too much of studies doing survey, but so far there's no one do the focus group discussion or never done case studies. Okay, to come up with the case study is to capture the real settings. Okay, that's the purpose of the case study. So when we're doing the case study, we can get a clear idea what is going on in the firm, because we are going to interview the person, we are going to look into a lot of sources of the firms, and then we're going to get data on that. So maybe when we're doing the focus group discussion, okay, we are going to do like choosing some top management, and then we might be getting a lot of information about the based on the real data. So this is going to be added value to your methodological gap. Okay, you're not only you're like rely on the survey, but you try something new, case study for the issue. Let's say, for example, what I've done is like, why I'm saying like, have found some methodological gap, because previously all the studies, especially when people are doing the strategy access seeking, they captured based on the survey, they captured the data based on the official statistic, which is released by the ministry, the particular ministries in their country. But when it comes to the question comes when we question about the reliability of the data, because we are not capturing the real data on the official statistics. Okay, and it's be proven by the previous studies, like many papers like what we call Dillon Sutherland. Okay, they have said like this is not capturing because we overlook into the tax haven. Okay, official statistics is capturing together with the tax haven, so we can't say that people are investing at tax haven is a part of investment. It's part of like escaping from paying the tax and so on. Okay, so we have to separate that from the statistics, then only we can see what is this going on, the real things is going on with the uh, real things going on with the firms. Okay, so based on that we can capture whether they are doing the technology seeking or they purposely want to go to the overseas for the tax haven. Okay, so it can be captured in official statistics, but when it comes to the Orbis, okay, the database we can see, okay, because we can see the location of their investment. If it's somewhere at Cayman Islands, if somewhere it's a British Virgin Islands, so it's considered as a tax haven, so we can omit them from the data. So it's giving a much more reliable data when we going to run into the statistic. So we are getting the reliable finding to support about the strategic asset seeking activities among the firms. Okay, there's something is like briefly, maybe you quite confused because like maybe some those who are from IB, they can understand that, but metrological is comes to that. Okay, it means like you are showing some novelty on getting the data. Okay, so previous studies is doing survey, but when it comes to my when it comes to the my studies, when it comes to my research, I start to use I opt to use the case study to see more reliable data. I start to use Orbis database to get much more reliable data. So this the argument will go on in your thesis, and this is how you're going to answer for the examiners as well. So that from based on that, the examiners can capture, okay, this person have found something like methodological gap, and this is something new because you can give some example like the previous studies like the key papers which is identified the strategy seeking Mayer 2007 or Dillon Sutherland 2021, Zinwei Shi 2021. Okay, they found out all of this, but this is something is still lacking of. Therefore, in my studies, I'm going to look into that. So they can capture, examiners can capture what, when you're answering to them, they can capture, okay, this person have some, can justify why this person, this use this type of method for his or her research. Okay, the final one is a knowledge gap, which I want to stress over here for today. It's a knowledge gap. Okay, knowledge gap is always like it's kind of like it's like a biggest biggest gap that you can you can put into your studies. Okay, so it means the same things like when you're reading. Okay, when you're doing research, it's all about the reading. Okay, reading, and you do the research. Okay, so you can't find the one gap. Okay, you can't find that one gap in one paper. Okay, you have to do a lot of readings, and you have to clear what you want to identify. Okay, that's why I said, okay, when you are doing your when you're about to start your research, okay, you have to clearly have in your mind, okay, what you want to know about this topic. Okay, topic is means doesn't mean title. Okay, there's a different, this is excuse me, this is different with the topic and title. Title is the main thing of your overall about your thesis, but topic is what you're going to look into. Okay, what issue that you're going to look into your research. Okay, that's what we call like gaps. Okay, that gap, from the gaps we are going to integrate with the problem statement, and then problem statement, it will like central, both of them will be the central of your thesis, and you're going to write up your thesis based on that. Okay, you're going to do the analysis based on that. Okay, what are the method that you're going to use? Okay, what are the still the some knowledge, what are the knowledge which is still have to need to be addressed particular for this topic. Okay, so we move to the next slide. Okay, so as I said, okay, how to find out the gaps? There's no any easy way in your in your studies. Okay, when we are going to do our PhD, when we are going to do master, when we are going to do the UG, there's no any easy way for us. Okay, we have to read and search. Okay, that's what we call research. Okay, and you have to familiarize yourself, okay, to read at least per day when you start your day, before you start your day, at least read 2 recent articles, okay, about your topic, okay, so that you can get some, some brief idea what is going on in your research, okay. At least, like, you take the key papers, like, doesn't matter from which year, but key papers, what I'm saying here, I'm stressing over here, key papers, okay, which is like, whenever you read strategy essay seeking, for sure you will see this kind of scholars, the articles from these scholars will be there, okay. So I think, like, when we are discussing about business group, okay, Chari 2013, okay, where he did some research on this developing, he did some business group which is developing in India, okay. So his paper is a key paper when we're discussing about the business group. Same goes to the Khanna and Yaffe 2007, okay. They are kind of like, the articles published in HBR, okay, Harvard Business Review magazines, okay, the very first articles discussed about the business group in 1997, okay. So whenever you discuss about the business group, okay, I remember when my squire said, Mugi, when you are discussing about the business group, you have to include it, okay. You must include it, this Khanna and Yaffe 1997, you 2011, Chari 2013, okay. When I'm about to start my PhD, that time it was in 2015. So quite, the papers are quite still new for me, especially for the U and Chari, okay. So they are like, top papers for the business group. And Yaffe is Khanna and Yaffe 2007 is the first, they discuss about this, they are like discuss about the role of business group in assisting the outward foreign direct investment, okay. And it goes on, okay. So familiarize yourself to read the recent articles or key papers, and that's how you can find out your gaps, okay. So you have to read a lot of papers, okay. Please, don't go until like 100 papers or 200 papers, okay. Limit yourself for the 30 or 40 papers, okay. You can go to the future, they guys like future researchers, okay. Go and see them what they have to highlight over there, okay. And you see the recent articles which is being published on that topic and what they still want to question about, okay. Based on that, okay, because they're raising all this question in the future research, because they said there are like some lacking knowledge on that questions, okay. Based on the question, that's how you can go to the research gaps, okay. The main mistake that we'll do is, okay, when you're doing our research, okay, nobody have done the research, that's why I want to do the research, okay. Research is not only because no one have done the research, okay. It's because some issues is still ongoing there, and we have to find out the solution for that, okay. So remember that you are doing your research because you want to find the solution for the existing issue, okay. Not because okay, you can't say like, no research has been done for, the particular topic. Like, let's say it could be reliable, it could be, okay, it could be acceptable when a doctor said, okay, there's no one done any research on COVID-19, therefore I'm going to do research on the COVID-19, okay, that is something acceptable. But when it comes to the topic in management or any fields, okay, there must be some study have been done, okay. That's why when it comes to the academic writing, we can't say like, no research have been done, okay. Unless you are very sure that no research have been done, then okay. But we will say that little research have been done on this particular topic, okay. It means there are some research have been done, but still lacking of certain solution or certain information still lacking of in that particular research, okay. So for that, you have to read and search, read and search, read and search. And my advice, not advice, okay, I'm not someone to give the advice, okay. I just want to share the tips, okay. Before you start your day, start to familiarize yourself to read at least 2 or 3 articles about your topic, okay. It will help you to understand and how to develop your research, okay. Okay, so as I said, like, the common mistakes when you're going to do when you're going to find out this research gap, okay. as I said, you jump to the faster conclusions. There's no studies. Okay, by just reading by 2 papers, okay, you have come up with a conclusion that say, okay, this means no studies, so I have to do these studies. This is a mistake that I think the biggest mistake that you can done if you're doing your research. Okay, you have to read at least 20 or 30, or if you can go for the 50. Okay, you can go up to the 50, but make sure what you read is related to your topic and related to your, it's really like key papers of your topic. Okay, so you have to aim earlier what you're going to look into. Okay, which topic that you're going to look at, not finding the title. Okay, not finding the title can be changed over time. Okay, it can happen, like, I think I've changed my title for almost like 5 times, because when it comes to the final, when I'm writing down my discussion, and then we just look into the overall, when we read the whole thesis, we come up like, should we put home country effect, should we put business group and role of government, should we put like some other fancy topic. Then end of the day, we just put a home country effects and merging markets, enterprises activities. Okay, particularly into the, we look into the Malaysia. Okay, something like that. So the first thing when you're doing the research, don't go and meet your supervisor with the title. Okay, my title of my research is what are the factors influencing of the hybrid teaching in the classroom. Okay, it's not something a proper way to meet your supervisor. When you're going to meet your supervisor, okay, you go with your research gaps. You go meet him or her with the problem statement. Okay, you go and like, you explain to that to your supervisor. Okay, hi, hi doctor, hi prof. Okay, based on the topic which I want to do, okay, I have found some research gap. Okay, previously in the studies, so on and so on. Okay, they have found like, hybrid learning in the classroom is not adaptable because of the certain issues. Okay, and then however, recently because of the pandemic, scholars found that hybrid learning is one of the most convenient mode of teaching for the teachers. Okay, and also for the students as well. Okay, therefore there are like some lacking of studies which like looking into the rural areas. Okay, which they overlook about the how this hybrid learning can be applied in the rural areas. Okay, therefore my topic, okay, the research gap which I'm going to look at, the implementation of hybrid learning in the rural areas in India, for example. Okay, when you go and meet your supervisor with this kind of like ideas, okay, with these research gaps, okay, you are clear with the key papers of your studies. When supervisor there, that he or she hears about this, all this explanation about your justification, they must be happy and they say you can go on because you're clear with your research aim. Okay, so that's why you say this is the gap which I'm going to look up, like I'm going to look at the methodological gap. Okay, because initially people are doing the survey, they are doing the interview, but here I'm going to doing the focus group discussion where I'm going to the schools at the rural areas and I'm going to interview the students, okay, through the observation, through the discussion with them. Okay, I'm going to get much more in-depth data for my studies. Okay, so based on that, okay, you're going to do your research. Okay, so when you can get this, you can explain well about the research gap, so you clearly have the idea what you're going to do throughout your 3 years or 4 years of your studies. Okay, maybe master for 2 years, or maybe PhD 4 years or 5 years. Okay, depends on the process. Okay, because it's all this process. Okay, so depends on that. But the thing is, we are not talking about the process, but we're talking about the research gap. Okay, the central of the central support of your thesis. If you're clear with that, it means you don't worry about the rest things. You can come up, okay, you can come up with solution for the other issues which is going to blooming throughout your your research journey. Okay, and as I said earlier, okay, don't torture yourself by reading 50 or 60 or 70 articles. Okay, because we might have some overloaded information. Okay, sometimes when we're reading, this is one of the common symptoms. I think common symptom is happening for the research students, where we are reading a lot of articles, but we don't know whether it's relatable to our studies or our topic. Okay, we just keep reading. Okay, it like 100 or 200, but end of the day, we have no idea what we are going to look into. So therefore, choose the key papers, okay? Choose the recent papers, which is like have been published on your topic that you're going to do, okay? And then read them, okay? See what other questions have been established by them, which still need some research on that. Okay, which you still, okay, I'm so sorry. What are the questions like, raised by them based on their research, and try to construct, okay, I don't know whether it's the right word, but try to come up with research for that, come up with solution for that, the particular questions. That's what we call research gap. The question could be on the knowledge gap, could be on the methodological gap, could be on the, some other types of gaps. Okay, but that question is going to be looking into the solution for through your topics, or through your research. Okay, so please, please again, I'm repeating again, please familiarize yourself, because I have been through that. Okay, I have been through that, where I read almost like 50 articles, but I still don't have no ideas what should I do. But then only my supervisor, he gave me like a 30, close to like 30 articles. Okay, what are the key papers, what are the recent papers discussing about the strategy seeking is going on in the emerging markets. And then I got some ideas what should I do, and then till until of my my thesis. Okay, so please memorize yourself to update yourself. Okay, we're not only to update our softwares or our hardware in a phone or in a laptop, but we have to update ourselves with the recent studies as well. Okay, so as I said, this is like a tips on like how to find out, how to read the current like to current I'm so sorry, how to identify your research gaps. Okay, so you just like try to limit your search for the 5 years, as I said, like the key papers, the recent articles. Okay, so when you read your articles within these 5 years, as I said, it could be like the key papers can be published in 1950s. Okay, it could be published in 1960s. Okay, but if you think that paper is the really key paper for your topic, it doesn't matter. But when you're at early stage of your PhD, before you start your writing up, you start your writing your thesis or writing your research, try your search your article search for 5 years. Okay, try to see what are the trend of the research is going on in your topic that you have chose. Okay, that you have chose. Okay, so you will get an idea what are the trends. Okay, for one of the easier way is look for the thematic articles. It means like there are like a lot of articles can be found in the Elsevier, in the in the top publisher, where the researchers, they will do like trend of like they say internalization of emerging markets from year 1940s up to the 2020s. Okay, that is a really good article for you to know what is going on. If you want to do some articles about the internalization, so that article is going to be one of the one of the best, best, because you no need to like find out the articles, because they will include it what other articles like what other articles have been seen on these internalization issues. Okay, based on that you can snowballing look into the authors, and then you can go and find the articles based on that. So okay, as I say, on the early stage, okay, maybe the pre-stage of your PhD or your master or your UG, when you're doing your research, okay, start to find out like articles which is talking about the thematic. Okay, it's like review papers, okay, from this year to this year, what are the trends going on. Okay, that will help you. It will like help you to save your time by looking, searching for the articles. Okay, based on that, you start to skim articles. Okay, so when you read your articles, if you want to know about the ideas, okay, let's say it's like something like the theoretical articles, okay, it's discussing about the theory, you have to read the fully articles. But when it's like articles about which is discussing about the data, discussing about the method, okay, there's a proper research articles. Okay, you may look into the introduction. Okay, you may look into the literature review. Okay, what are the studies have been discussed? For example, when I'm doing my strategic seeking, okay, I read. Okay, the first thing when I get the paper, I will read the introduction. Okay, what are they are going to do? Okay, what they are going to do in that, what they are going to discuss in this research, in this article. Okay, then I will read a little bit. I will skim a little bit. Okay, on this literature review, what are the top studies have been highlighted by this researcher in this article. And then straight away, I will go to the conclusion and the future research. Because at the future research, okay, you can see over here, sorry, you can see over here, okay, the future research is where some of the, I didn't think some, I think most of the researchers, they will highlight the important questions which need to be addressed in the future research. Okay, based on that, you can identify, based on that, you can get some idea, what should I do in this topic. Okay, when I'm reading the articles, especially about the strategic seeking, okay, I will look at the future research, okay, by the key papers, by the the reason, okay, by the top latest articles. I'll look into the future research, what are the questions raised by them, okay, to to be addressed in the future research, what they're expecting to know, what are the new knowledge should be addressed, okay, in the future, for for the better understanding of the topic. Okay, so track your reading diary. Okay, track your reading diary means like you have to I'm so sorry, I don't have right now, but okay, you can make that's like you can go and find the Google. Okay, you just like literature review metrics. Okay, you can type literature review metrics. Okay, on that, okay, on in that metrics, literature review metric, you can note down articles. Okay, what are the methodology they have done, what are the what are the conclusion have they done through the research, and what still need to be addressed on. Okay, based on that, it will make you understand, and you can use that metric for your literature review. It means you're not only reading this article for your research gap, but this is also for your literature review. As I said, okay, in thesis, if you're reading this article, it's not going to for the one particular part of your thesis. Is going to be overall, as overall. Okay, and you're reading for research gap, either you're reading for the methodology, either you're reading for the or for the for discussion, everything can be included in your thesis. So when you're doing this, tracking your reading diary, you do this literature review metrics. Okay, you can use for the literature review as well. At the same time, you can understand the trend is going on in your topic. Okay, so when you're reading, okay, please limit yourself, like don't land up into the overloaded information zone. Okay, try to limit your limit your readings. Okay, but the reading should be key papers and also the latest papers on your topic. Okay, and straight away, okay, if you want to understand more about a topic, you maybe can read the articles. But basically, when when it comes to me, I will do the same thing which I explained just now. I go to the introduction, I'll look into the literature review, okay, and I will go to the conclusion, what they have discussed, and the right way I'll go to the future research if they have included into the article. Otherwise, I will go and read, and I will limit like 30 articles to understand, not fully understand, but at least to get a brief understanding on the topic. Okay, so this is an example of the research gap. Okay, not an example of research gap. It's a how to address the research gap in your research. Okay, when you look at the example of A, you can see like worldwide was shaken by all this, and then this study will explore manager perspective on pandemic 2020. This is kind of like is kind of like a statement for the problem statements. Okay, it means like you're explaining like there's some issues going on, so therefore you're going to identify solution for the problem statement. Okay, but when it comes to the B, okay, this is the research gap. Okay, you are like I say, you review the previous studies, okay, examine about the factory workers and their behavior toward the disaster and so on and so on. But there's a positive whereby those studies are less focused on the lower management responsive behavior towards crisis management. Okay, this is highlighted by the Zuko 2020. Okay, therefore, the studies encompasses so on and so on. So when you come up with this, okay, this B example of B, when come up with this kind of part in your thesis, the examiner can capture what you're trying to do in your base, what you're going to discuss in your thesis. Okay, so they understand that you have found out something, this we call here knowledge gap. Okay, there's like people, they're like some articles, they focus less on the lower management responsive behavior. Okay, how they respond toward the disaster. Okay, when they are like facing some disasters like a natural disasters or any organizational disaster, how do they respond towards that? Okay, still people not addressing that kind of issues in the organization. Okay, so therefore you're going to see into that topic. Okay, because the previous studies, they just look at the factory workers. Okay, but here you're going to look into the focus on the management, but at a lower management responsive. Okay, so there's a sample of research gaps. Okay, so here you can see here, okay, this is like a some sentence. Okay, you can see like previous research has addressed several aspects. Okay, some some previous, like you can see like Ang 2020, Zuko 2020. Okay, relevant articles, and then you explaining your research gap. Okay, however, in addition, so on, some of these explain. Okay, this is the right way to explain about your research gaps. Okay, so when you put into like I remember I remember that I put this one particular part only to discuss about the research gap. Okay, I divided into the theoretical gaps, I divided into the methodological gaps, and finally I divide into the knowledge gaps. Okay, that particular parts is just identifying about the gaps, and I put it in the chapter 1. So when the examiner reading the chapter 1, they can understand what background of the study. Okay, they can understand about the the issues which is going on, the problem statement, what is the issues going on, okay, in that topic. And then at last I'm using, okay, at last I'm writing, I wrote up about this research gaps. Okay, the main topic is research gap, and then I divided into the 3 types of gaps which is I found in the studies, and this is how going to be central, okay, the central track, okay, central track for my thesis. Okay, so for further understanding, you can go to these articles you can find from the Google Scholars. Miles 2017 is very latest articles. Okay, you can go to the Miles 2017, you can read more further and what are the type of gaps. Okay, so that's all what I can share about the research gap. Okay, so I hope you all understand, or you get some brief understanding, okay, on this research gap. And that's all from me, Sakshi, and I wish all the best to everyone.
Thank you so much for this very informative and demonstrative session. If anyone has any question, you can ask. I think no one has any question. Thank you so much all the participants for your active participation. Let me inform to all that this complete session will be available on our Research Circle YouTube channel. So if you want to watch it again or want to share it to somebody, please do visit the Research Circle YouTube channel. Thanks. And last but not the least, thank you, Dr. Mugneshwari Sahadevan, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Shashi.
Now the time for a session. With your permission, I would like to end today's session here. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye.